You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Steve Best.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Now, Steve, how are you going to prove to me that you really are the best?
Well, you're just gonna have to take my word for it there, Rob.
Well, I'm taking it for it now. What do you do and what do you want to talk about?
Well, I with along with my business partner Drew, we have a hot sauce company up here in Canada, and we do flavor first hot sauces with kind of a super gourmet twist.
Okay, what do you mean by super gourmet twist? Because I've been tricked by some candy before. At one point, I don't know if you've ever tried the gum. I guess it's flammels, whatever it's called, like the fire gum with the cinnamon. That's a fucking trick.
No, I've never tried that before, but back in the day, I tried this gum called Gotchas, and it came in like a pack of 5 gumballs, and one of the 5 was super, super hot, and the other 4 were not so hot. So I had an experience once or twice, pretty young, and I got got by the Gotchas.
I don't think anybody at one point in my life told me that you're not supposed to eat the gum. I think there was a thing that came in, like, it looked like a bunch of little Band-Aids, like there was grape flavor, apple flavor, and a strawberry flavor. And I thought once
Yeah.
the flavor was gone, you just ate it. So I ate like probably 48 sticks worth of gum until my dad saw me do it. He's like, "Why aren't you spitting that out?" I was like, "Isn't this what you do? You just swallow it?"
Well, that's one way of approaching gum for sure.
Well, how'd you get started in developing hot sauce in the first place?
Well, the story basically starts with my business partner, Drew. We were working together at a really high volume kitchen facility and very stressful. And one of the things that Drew did in his spare time was growing all kinds of crazy, wonderful chilies and making hot sauces for some of his friends and just giving them out and really experimenting with really interesting flavor profiles. And so it came to a point where Drew asked me if I wanted to participate in the company that he had started, Drew's Chili Co. And, looking to exit the whole corporate lifestyle and kind of make our way on our own and figure out how to make life better for us. Jumped at the chance and started Hertz Berry Farm last year, actually. So we've only been doing this for a year commercially, and we are a seed to bottle hot sauce company, so we grow the majority of what we put inside of our bottles. So Drew's actually at the farm right now working with our 500 hot chili startups that we have, and we're just waiting for the spring so we can get them outside and start to grow these little beauties.
What is your favorite part about at least owning a farm or owning a hot sauce company in general? Do you prefer the marketing aspect of it and kind of naming the sauces and creating it, or do you prefer the growing of the peppers?
You want to know what? It's all equally important to us. We realize that there's the chain, right? You can't make the sauce without the chilies, and why not take the approach on having our hands, and that's what Drew and I like to do, our hands right inside the dirt and have a have a really hands-on approach from putting the seeds into the ground all the way to uh, putting it inside the bottle, coming up with the names, and creating these amazing flavor profiles.
I always thought the funnest part probably was just the name and kind of the design of the bottle, but all that kind of comes after the fact of what you decide to put into your hot sauce, such as if you're going to use a ghost pepper, if you're going to use a Carolina Reaper. Those are significantly hotter peppers, so you can name your sauce something like Devil's Dick or something insane that usually goes on the same demonology or some insane ridiculous name to it.
That's right. There's definitely like a proprietary aspect to the hot sauce world. And I mean, as you say, there's so many different names and so many names that almost prevent the people from buying buying it because who wants to uh, who wants to just swallow a bunch of Satan's dick? But you never know, right?
There are that select few out there. We like to call those guys chili heads. They're the ones that want to go above and beyond to really kind of burn their taste buds or just give themselves a stomach ulcer. I mean, I can be one of those guys as well too. I always like looking at I figured out that if you look at the bottles that typically don't have a lot that really attract your attention, more like a blank look to it, those are the ones that are usually pretty hot.
Yeah, exactly. It's like how some people say it's like you better watch out for the quiet ones because they are maybe possibly the worst ones, right? Same thing with hot sauce.
Now, what types of flavors do you have, or what was your original, I should say?
Well, Drew and I, we set out and we wanted to do a line of three. So we have a line of three, the trifecta, as we call it. And we have Viridescent, which is our mildest, which is an East Indian inspired salsa verde. So we achieve that flavor profile by taking some amazing Ontario grown tomatillos, jalapenos, serranos, and we kind of get the East Indian flair by incorporating some coconut milk, and we take some garam masala, which we take the whole spice blend, which we make ourselves, fresh grind it, and incorporate that into the sauce. It's truly an amazing mild sauce. Then we also have the medium Starless, an award-winning sauce we're really proud of. It's a smoky style mole. It's got coffee, za'atar, sumac, tahini, a really nice blend of ancho pasilla and chipotle peppers, and it's got an amazing robust flavor. It's just something else. It's fantastic. Charred threads, which is a tropical style with fresh pineapple, fresh squeezed orange juice. And one of the really interesting things about this sauce is that we use some Ontario grown saffron inside of it. We get it from some amazing people up at True Saffron, and they just make this amazing stuff. It's the most expensive spice in the world, and we are just thrilled that we're able to find it locally. And that's really one of the things that Drew and I like to accomplish with each and every one of our sauces is just to incorporate the idea of locon or being locally conscious, just to find what's around you and try and use those products inside our product to make an even better product.
Well, first of all, even having the knowledge of where all your ingredients comes from too. I mean, anybody can go to a store, pick out a bunch of ingredients and put it into a sauce, but if you grow it or if you are able to find it at a farm or at least see where it came from, see what the area around it is, it first of all enhances more of what I would call relatable and more of like a heart to it. You know, when people are knowing that your sauce
Exactly.
is bought nearby or you are literally hand to hand with all your ingredients, they have a little bit more faith in you as a person because you're going to the extents that a lot of people don't really go to if they're trying to make a profit. Really, you're killing, I guess, I mean, you're wasting a little bit of time in the eyes of the big market world, but you're really kind of sticking into the hearts of the customer.
Exactly. You couldn't have said it better. And that's one thing that we truly believe in. It's okay to take a little bit of extra time if the end result is going to be superior. And, from sourcing Ontario grown saffron, I mean, on our farm, we incorporated bees last year. And so it's just amazing what you can do when you act and look locon.
What how did you typically come across some of your flavors? Like I always look at when I'm in a grocery store or something, I see the basics, you know. You really got to work off what you're using pepper wise. I know some people that use jalapenos, I know some people that use the Carolina Reapers. Once you figure out what pepper you're going to use, it's going to affect the flavor profile, such as like jalapenos and some of the basic habaneros and stuff. Then ones that are like a little bit spicy, but enough for the public. The main consumption ones are probably the best hot sauce to at least start out with. But you can incorporate things like mango, all these kind of basic fruit flavors to them. But then once you start diving into the Carolina Reapers, you have to find something that's a little bit more of a kick to it.
That's right. And at Hertz Berry Farm, we do usually use a blend of chilies. That's one of the things that we're kind of known for because we know that each and every chili, like you were saying, it kind of delivers either a different heat, a different delivery of heat. Some you can have a really hot chili and you could think to yourself, wow, this isn't hot at all. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And then when 15 seconds hit, you're like, oh, I realize that this is a super hot chili. and my ears are ringing, and you can feel like the whiskey chest and the warmth running through your body. And by us knowing and growing all these different varieties of chilies and really exploring what each one has to offer, we can really, Drew and I like to say we like to engineer our sauces to create not just a flavorful experience, but an experience with heat, and that's one of the special things that hot chilies provide.
Have you thought about trying to crossbreed maybe some peppers to create a more unique style? You know, you hear about the peppers like Dragon's Breath and all these
Oh,
insane,
yes.
crazy ass names. I'm like, I wonder if someone decided instead of mixing the two in a sauce, but trying to get a crossbreed of a plant and see if they can come up with something brand new.
Yeah, that actually happens a lot, both on our farm and elsewhere. On our farm, like we have a polytunnel, which we call our experimental tunnel. So, just to, like on a side note, we have a seed binder of just chili seeds alone with over 900 varieties inside from all over the world, going from wild Amazonian chili peppers, really tiny but super hot, all the way up to some chilies that were grown on the International Space Station, which have a really interesting growth pattern because of the, I don't know, maybe the lack of gravity that they grew in. So they grew in all kinds of weird and wonderful shapes. It's very interesting.
When you look at the factors that come into growing a pepper, like what's the average length it takes for you to be able to harvest and grow a full on pepper plant?
Well, it takes quite a long time, and for super hots, it takes considerably longer. For example, we started germinating our seed starts about a month ago, a month and a half ago, and we won't be able to reap our rewards until probably late in the summer or heading into fall. It takes a long time, but it's definitely a labor of love. We love doing it and seeing all these little beauties hanging off of their branches. And it's just so cool to see all the different types, colors, sizes, shapes. It's amazing.
I always look at like the factors that play into first of all growing a plant in general. For some reason, I don't know why, it's just so peaceful being able to be involved in watching something grow, whether it's like a company or your child or a plant. Mostly like just seeing something that you're able to start off from scratch and create yourself and then watching it form into something that you actually start being able to get produce from has to be an amazing feeling.
It really is an amazing feeling, and it kind of is the Hertz Berry farm is kind of a point of relaxation for both Drew and I. I mean, we do a lot of traveling all over, doing shows, trade shows, exposing people to, turning people on to hot sauce, getting them to rethink it with Hertz Berry Farm as not just a topical condiment, but as something that you can put in your food and use it as a cooking ingredient, not just something that's going to blast your face off, but we want it to be a flavorful experience and we want it to be memorable. And it's just nice to know that from planting the seed into the ground and to the time that we harvest, we can really control so many more factors into making a great product that we really love and we stand behind.
Now, have you had any ideas really coming across in your mind that you want to test out for a new pepper? I always find that like I'm tasting different flavors of hot sauce and looking at all the different spices and talking to so many people involved in the process of making it. There are a lot of flavor combinations out there. I mean, there's a sauce I had that was like a cheese sauce, like just even putting it on, it was thick when it came out. I like a nice thick sauce. I don't like
Hmm.
the water stuff like Tabasco, but I mean, with the whole hot sauce, any type of like company in these giant industries that have been dominating the market for so long. Like when you think of coffee, you think of like Starbucks, Folgers, all these main brands. But
That's right.
these off-brand startups, these people that are trying to be entrepreneurs and going after something. I mean, even with hot sauce in general, it's always Tabasco, La Top, whatever it is, Lateco, or
That's right.
and it's like
Sriracha
yeah,
and
sriracha, and it's like, what like, let's get something else out there because there's plenty of good ones. I mean, I'll sit there and walk down my, like, it's in Walmart, it's like the Hispanic aisle where you'll see all the hot sauce and salsas, and I'm sitting there looking, I'm like, all these why is it that we get attracted to the giant guy with the sombrero on the front? Like it's that's always there. But then I'm looking and seeing all these other ones, like they have even more badass designs, but they're just not that known.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how like you say there's a capture on like a large part of the market with a couple of the larger players, right? But what Drew and I are starting to see, especially here in Canada, I mean, hot sauce is a much larger market in the United States right now than it is in Canada. But I think there's growth in both on kind of like we see it as like the craft beer industry. There's a lot of people doing all these little startups, and sure, it is a challenge, and a lot of people are finding their way. I mean, just finding chilies alone to make sauce sometimes is difficult, and that's one of the reasons why we like to grow a lot ourselves. But there really is an emerging community that we're seeing in Canada and elsewhere for more opportunity for people to choose something besides Tabasco or choose something besides Sriracha. I mean, so many people have tried it, and like sometimes it's fine, just pop it on or pop it in whatever. But there are a lot of people who are working really hard, just like Drew and myself, to really elevate the hot sauce world and to show people that it can be a more flavorful, better experience using great ingredients where they're coming from, especially with Drew and I growing things ourselves. Um,
Well, it's a trend too. I mean, if you look at USA basically gets everything like first, just like how China does. I mean, China's the main producer in a lot of things, so everything gets exported here. And then if we look at like East Coast, for instance, where I'm at, Ocean City, Maryland, we get things 4 months but like after Hawaii does, because Hawaii's so close that they get a lot of this stuff first. I remember I bought a pair of board shorts when I went up there, and then 4 months later, 5 months later, they were in stores down here. But it was like a pre-exclusive playa. I didn't have to pay any chump change for that. I just paid the normal price that you would. But we look at things like Canada, for instance, a lot of things that are going on over there is the fact that a lot of people are ordering cereal and they're getting it sent to their house because they don't have a lot of the American brands here. They don't have Fruity Pebbles. They don't have all these other things. You guys are used to the basic grains and all these other things, but now all that's shifting and going your way. Every place is starting to discover something, just it takes a little bit more time than the other main producers.
That's very true. There's lots of option out there, and it's becoming more accessible to get into those kind of niche markets that might not have been discovered before, and now they're completely accessible.
What would you consider your flavor profile for hot sauce? Are you a spicy guy? Are you a mild guy? Are you the little wimpy, guy that wants to put a little bit on their taco?
Well, I can definitely handle the heat. Drew's well more seasoned than I am. He crushed a super hot burger the other day and did extraordinarily well with it. Suffered a little bit of the consequences, but that's what you're dealing with hot peppers sometimes. But I love it all. Like, I mean, I really enjoy finding different ways to cook with hot sauce, not just put it on top of things, right? Um, to really show like more versatility for this condiment.
What exactly do you mean more versatility for? It seems like everyone looks at hot sauce and just is like, oh, you can just put it on this or put it on that.
Yeah, just to make something hot. But like if you take a sauce like our Starless, you could put it in a braised beef dish or put it in your chili just to elevate it. Like we have some pretty heavy hitting mushrooms inside of it. We have morels, chanterelles, porcini mushrooms. They've all been foraged in our province, Ontario. And it just makes it a more robust, interesting flavor. Um, just taking the time to elevate your everyday and taking time to think about what's going in your products, because if you're starting out with something great, then it's pretty easy to make whatever you're putting it on great as well.
I feel like there's many more things we could do with hot sauce than just putting it on food. I don't know if you have experienced extreme heat before, but I feel like we could put that into a truth serum and inject that into somebody, because when I'm burning from something literally carving out my insides, feeling like I'm gonna get a stomach
Oh,
ulcer,
yes.
like eating an extremely hot pepper. You can literally ask me anything. I will give you the straight answer to it. No lying, no bullshit. I'm like, that's way better than a lie detector test.
Well, there's definitely different uses for the for the hot peppers, some of which are military based. I don't know if they're doing it for truth serums just yet, but who knows what they're working on. It's definitely a powerful little plant, and definitely more versatility to just hot sauces as well. They're doing some really interesting research on how it can help and prevent specific types of cancers, which is really interesting. It's a
Burning off those
self-pollinating.
cancer It's burning off those cancer cells, man. It's like I hate
Yeah,
when I'm eating something really spicy and someone asks me why my nose is running. I'm like, "'Cause this shit is literally clearing out my nasal cavities. It's like literally cleansing out your immune system. I mean, it's better than any vitamin C tablet you could ever take."
exactly. Well, we make this product, as I mentioned, we have bees on our farm, and what we do with that honey that they produce, we make a triple filtered, unpasteurized honey, which we infuse with habaneros and Korean chili threads. It's really an amazing thing, and it's great on food. But if you have a little bit of a cold or your throat and you're all clogged up in your head or whatnot, you can just make some tea, put a tablespoon inside your tea and drink it, and it's amazing what it can do to make you feel better.
Do you, does it get nervous kinda working around bees in general? I mean, that freaks the hell
Well,
out of me.
I'm allergic to bees, so I carry around an EpiPen just in case. But bees, they're quite incredible. We work with a great aviarist from Graziado's Bee All, one of our good friends, and she's just like a bee whisperer. Really, really cool person and a close friend of ours. But they really do smell fear. And if you go up to the side of the hive, sure, there are 350,000 bees flying around, but if you're calm, then they're calm and they don't bug you. And they have one thing in mind is to protect the queen and make honey. That's their jobs, right?
The worst thing I ever did in the world was I don't know if it was a bee or a wasp, but I'm pretty sure it was a wasp. I was at a campground. I got stung by a wasp. It didn't. Bee stings and wasp stings don't hurt me for some reason.
Yeah.
I just don't feel them. So I just took my flip flops that were on my feet and I just started beating the shit out of like 50 wasps. No joke. I was killing these things left and right. I hit the hive. I was doing everything, but when I was a little kid, I looked out in my yard and I guess a bee hive had fallen over or fallen off of
Oh
something,
yeah.
landed and hit the ground and it broke open. Dude, the queen was in there. I first saw my very first bee queen. That thing was fucking huge.
It's really crazy, right?
I thought
We
that I looked like someone like I don't even know, like inflated like a balloon.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And they queens are like there's one per hive, and if they die, the chances are that the rest of the hive might go as well unless they can take one of the eggs, feed them the royal jelly, which turns them into the queen, and then they can have a new leader born, right?
That shit is insane, man. I mean, you
It
can look
is.
at like
Bees are
literally they live their whole entire life protecting one thing.
it's quite incredible.
When it comes to even trying to discover any new combinations with your sauce, do you try and go out of your way to explore different flavor profiles of other sauces, or do you just try and stick to the stuff that you know?
We are pretty experimental. We don't really base anything on anything else. For example, we have our trifecta, as I mentioned before, but we do have an ongoing rotating super hot series. So for that, they're all super hot sauces, and each one differs from the last. We make a batch of about 500 bottles. And so each one has an incredibly different flavor profile. We've done an Asian flavor profile with Pyrolatria. We've done a tomato based one with salsa califacto. And we just released Chlorifier, which is a Thai style churrasco. So as you can tell, like just by the names and the flavor profiles, we really strive to not duplicate anything that we've either done before or anything that we may have seen before. We're all about discovering the wild, weird, and wonderful ingredients that the world has to offer, and kind of riffing off of what we can find and some of our travels. We both love to travel all over and just gain any little inspiration, and we can extrapolate that into an amazing tasting sauce that people we hope are going to love.
Do you prefer keeping it more of a tropical style, like just incorporating fruits and stuff in it, or do you like some of the basic, just kind of super hot flavors to it?
We're definitely not basic at Hertz Berry Farm. We've used ingredients such as aloe vera. We've used spruce gum resin, which is this like the sap that congeals on the outside of spruce trees. We've used spruce tips before, pickled fiddleheads, you name it. We're very experimental and into trying new things and kind of educating people about what's around.
I like even looking at like a grocery store, going through all like the vegetable aisles and organics. Everyone buys the same common ingredients. I mean, you can buy apples, you buy oranges, you buy tomatoes, buy whatever, but no one looks at the weird ass like shaped looking fruit that no one ever wants to buy, like a star fruit, a monk fruit, all these different types of things. I'm like, you could definitely incorporate so many of that into a sauce. Like if you use a blood orange, mix it with like a mix of maybe a kiwi or throw in maybe a dash of a star fruit or something, you would get a completely unique flavor profile. It doesn't sound like it would go good together, but it really does. Sometimes the
Yeah,
best things to pair with are things that you would least think would be able to go together.
that's right. It's like I always think of this like I have a lot of cookbooks and do a lot of research with them, and I always remember this one dish by a friend Adria from El Bulli, one of the best restaurants in the world. Um, and he had this dish, and it was black olives and white chocolate. And this is something that you don't think that would go together, but it was an amazing dish apparently with really interesting flavors. And when you think about it, oh, really sweet white chocolate, what would pair with that? Something bitter and salty that would counteract that, and then they work together. It's those kinds of ways of thinking outside of the box, and that's why when you really start to rethink hot sauce and you can really come up with some amazing things.
Yeah, see, I always get stuck on the process of making it. I really get ideas and crazy kind of mindset when it comes to creating things, whether it's like food or just hot sauce in general. And then I really just get like I don't have the tools to do so. I think that's what really makes it complicated. I feel like a lot of people could start doing a lot of their own things, being more creative, but it just seems so difficult on the basis of all the ingredients and all the kind of the whole process in general. It gets a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, it can become intimidating if you're not trying, right? You definitely have to try, and you definitely have to put a lot of thought and time and do a lot of, test batches to make sure that they do actually work. And I mean, you don't really know until you've made the product, it's labeled, and it's out there, and the ultimate test is whether it sells or not. And we've been very lucky and fortunate that we have a great base of people who appreciate and can see what we're doing and how it's unique in the hot sauce world. And we just hope that that continues to grow, and we'll continue to get people to rethink hot sauce and keep on buying and experimenting. Challenge yourself. We love it when people come up to our booths and they say, oh, we don't like hot sauce at all, we can't even stand black pepper. And then, well, we start them out with our infused maple syrup, which is a very mild product, really a little bit smoky, working with howitzer whiskey and Pefferlaw Creek organic maple syrup. And when they try that, it's like an introduction. It's mild, they can handle the heat, and they realize, oh, well, maybe something can be for me in this big wide world of hot sauce and spicy products. And then before you know it, they've tried the super hot, which has a Carolina Reaper in it, which is Guinness Book of World Records hottest chili, and they're enjoying it. It all depends on what you try and what they're exposed to. Like, I mean, if all you're exposed to is Tabasco and Frank's Red Hot, then that's unfortunate because there's so much out there to try, and you just have to seek it and try it and not be afraid. It's hot sauce.
Even when we talk about it being intimidating or too much to work with, I mean, at one point, did you ever think you were going to be diving into starting a farm and having your own hot sauce company? I mean, that just doesn't, that's not a thing for a lot of people. Nobody ever plans out when you're a kid and they bring a hat around for you to pull something out of or put something in to say, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? "Well, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a professional arm wrestler." Okay, okay, okay. And you're just like, I dived into the hot sauce realm. I mean, that's not a huge option
Mhm.
in today's world. We're living in crazy times, man. I mean, our education system, everything is pumped out to do stuff that where you're supposed to be a 9 to 5 factory worker, but it's just not people anymore. People are being very, very creative with the fact that we have this thing called the internet where you can look up easy methods, get your own hot sauce making kit, and start diving into it yourself.
That's right. Well, I mean, the thing is I never would have expected to be making hot sauce, and the great thing is that I get to do it with somebody who kind of led me in this direction with Drew, because he had so much passion behind it, and there's really something special about what Drew and I have at Hertz Berry Farm. Like, we were both trained chefs, and we worked in kitchens for a long time, working with people, managing kitchens, and how much of a hectic, crazy environment that can be. And now we take our love of cooking and our passion for growing things at our farm, and now we can do that. It's, in a way, it's on a smaller scale because we're just focusing on each individual bottle of product that we're doing, making it amazing. And now that we're able to shift that focus into our products, we're having some tremendous results. And I'm grateful to Drew for offering the opportunity to help build what he started, and we're thrilled about what's going to be happening in the future. There's lots of amazing things happening for us um,
What do you
this
typically
year.
have
I mean,
planned for the future? Like, maybe not tomorrow, maybe about later this year, maybe even 5 years down the road. You want to turn this into a multiple farm organization. I feel like the way you
absolutely.
really,
we
I would have pictured you would have stayed with just maybe expanding out your own farm a little bit bigger. I find that if a lot of things get disconnected, such as the personal kind of, I guess, relationship that you have with your own farm, once you start having multiple, it's going to be hard for you to handle being so closely connected.
it can be overwhelming thought, just to think, is like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to grow into more? But one of the things that's very important to us is building that network, and we've already started to do that, working with local farmers that we go and visit, and seeing what they can produce for us. And instead of it being the disconnect between farmer and what we want to produce, if we do that locally, we can still have our hands on approach to how we grow what we grow and who is growing it, if we do that within our community. I mean, we're really lucky where we live in the Uxbridge, Port Perry area. It's right smack dab in the middle of the green belts. There are so many farms and farmers doing all kinds of weird and wonderful things, some on smaller scales and some on larger scales, but it all helps fit together the spectrum of what we have available here. And it's important for us to build that and nurture that, because if we can provide, say, jobs for people in our community by farming chili peppers or whatever it is, then that's something that we can do in order to uplift and revitalize the agriculture community, which is, it could always be better, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at you came from what a kitchen background, so you know how frustrating that's got to be being around that hectic mess. I mean, anybody that I have ever talked to that's either a chef or just worked in a kitchen in general talks about how frustrating it can be when you got people running around trying to get their orders done at the same time you're being rushed. It really kind of sucks. But when you start working for yourself, you can notice the complete different shift of owning your own farm compared to where you were at maybe 5 years ago. I mean, if you look at hot
Yeah.
sauce, especially with you in general, with your farm, you can sell your peppers and sell your hot sauce to restaurants that are local nearby to be able to promote your product out there too. I mean, you can easily sell your peppers in a market trying to show them like, hey, this is locally produced stuff that you can use for cooking methods for someone that maybe doesn't want to go buy a hot sauce but is looking for something pepper wise to spice up their food. In America here in my town, we don't have a whole lot of local farmers that are growing their own peppers. We have to go to the store and get what red pepper, green pepper, yellow pepper, whatever it is. It's like it comes in a pack and it's like $2. Yeah, it's cheap, but it's like it's not that strong. It's not that amazing. Half the time you end up throwing it out because you barely even get to it.
hmm Yeah, there's lots of different chilies out there, and it's all about what you want. Like, I mean, more people are kind of getting in tune to the hot chilies. It's becoming very trendy, and it's growing. It's just important to make people realize that they're out there, and you kind of might have to hunt for them. But if you want it, you got to hunt for it.
It's because of that show Hot Ones. That's what it literally was. Once that show started getting really popular, it's all over now. People are wanting to try these food challenges or wanting to try extreme temperatures just to see if they can do it. It's like your man card, I would say.
Almost, it's like a sense of pride, like I did it. It's the Mount Everest of, an eating challenge because it is very challenging. We have some friends in the community like Johnny Scoville and Mike Jack who just can pound these hot chili peppers like it's nothing, like getting world records eating hot chilies. It's kind of an amazing thing. And these people are almost superhuman.
And what's your worst experience trying something hot? I mean, I've had one where I ate a raw Carolina Reaper, or one of those ghost peppers that were in the cooking bags, like the dry ass peppers you use for cooking.
Yeah.
And I felt like I swallowed a lump of coal that was on fire.
Yep, that can definitely happen. Well, I'll tell you about an experience that was very memorable for me when we were doing one of our experimental gardens, and you start to see the chilies coming onto the plant, and there was this one wild Amazonian chili plant that we were growing, and it was just so beautiful, and it had these super tiny little peppers on it. Probably, I would estimate the size of maybe like probably a small pea, right? Very, very tiny. But and as part of the process, why we grow them is to see what this chili does provide flavor, heat, et cetera, et cetera. And so you'd think a small, tiny little chili wouldn't be powerful. And as soon as I bit into this chili, I was immediately lit up, whole mouth, lips on fire, mouth salivating, making it worse, hot, hot liquid going down like into my stomach. But it was a challenge, but it was worth it because you don't know until you try, right?
Exactly. I got sent from Harmon Heat. Justin Harmon sent me this thing called Devil's Dust. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like a crushed up like spice or something you can put
Yeah.
on. And he kept warning me. He was like, "Yo, make sure you do a very, very, very small bit because it's very hot." And I was like, "Okay, I've tried hot stuff before, dude. I literally have killed the bottle of the last dab in 2 days, and the bomb was nothing." So I was like, I can handle this. So I stuck a spoonful, like if it was like cayenne pepper or something in there, and just put it in my mouth, had it. And dude, I swear, not even like a minute later, you get full regret from something. You're like, whoa, That hit me a certain way. Next thing I know, I felt like I popped a molar out of place, dude. It was like shaking my teeth and everything. I was like, damn, that was actually pretty hot, you know? It's like sometimes you bite off a little bit more than you can chew, I would say.
Hmm. Yes, some are very misleading. The chilies, you never know until you take that bite.
I'm always a fan of the flavor ones though. Like I like a nice something that's mixed with like a coconut there. You can truly taste it too. I do like burning my mouth off. I like having that challenge aspect to it. I always like trying to prove that I can out heat anybody, I would say. But I mean, it's enjoyable for meals. I mean, if you're selling to mostly like a giant audience of people trying to really get your product out there, you want to create the flavor profile that's capable for the people that really truly buy hot sauce for the enjoyment factor of actually putting it on food. I mean, you can easily dump a bottle of the last dab on anything, but you're not going to taste anything but the hot sauce. It's just too spicy for a lot of people, but a lot of people like the flavors, like that little bit of heat. That's why Tabasco is so good for a lot of people because they know it and it's not super, super hot to where it's going to kill their meal.
That's true. There's definitely a couple aspects to the hot sauce world. There are those who are seeking out the challenge, like the bomb and the last dab, which, yeah, as you say, they just make things very, very hot, and it is a thrill. It is fun to do every once in a while, but it's not something that you're gonna, put on your chicken breast or marinate your tofu in uh, on any given day of the week. It could hurt you, but you just have to find what's right for you.
I mean, people take what cayenne supplement pills just to be able to get the health benefits from it. I mean, if you look at the hot sauce community, there's a bunch of people that will go against them and say like, "Oh, it's bad for you. You can get stomach ulcers. You can get all this stuff." I'm like, if you're being an idiot with it, like if you're consuming like 80,000 peppers at one point, then in like a day, maybe, but I haven't seen really a whole lot of people coming down with stomach ulcers. If anything, I've seen a lot of people in the chili community, first of all, that have so many health benefits from it. For me, I like starting my morning off with something spicy for breakfast because it clears out my freaking airways all day. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
you
boost
get
your metabolism if it's a hot day. That's why a lot of these countries like India, they eat so many chilies. It's because it's hot over there, and if you eat chilies, it'll boost your tolerance of a hot day. It's
It's
just what
also
they
why
do.
they poop all the time too. I mean, you got to think that stuff does run right through you. It's a good way to clean out your system.
It possibly has that effect, but it might be from other things as well.
Yeah, that's true. Where do you really kind of want to see yourself going with this? I mean, on the multiple farm aspect, like how involved would you want to be in that? Like, I mean, you have to keep checking all these different locations. What I meant earlier about just kind of sticking with one farm and expanding out, it just seems like so many amazing mom and pop shops end up really kind of juggling more than they can handle. Like, if you're trying to learn how to juggle, they can easily do two. But then someone's like, here's 3, and the next thing you know, you're
And
at
then it's just
4.
boom, it's
Yeah,
all done, right? Yeah. Well, we're very conscious about that, and we realize that we have to take our time. We've only been in this hot sauce game for just over a year now, and granted, things are going well, but we have to keep humble and remember where we came from. And these are things that are going to lead us to not making those mistakes by getting too big too quick. We really want to watch our step going forward because this is something that Drew and I both want to last, and we want to make a mark in the hot sauce world, kind of making it more inclusive, not so much providing the da bombs and the super hots. Other people can do that way better, possibly. But what we want to do, we want to show that hot sauce can be for everyday life, for all your meals. Like, I mean, we make our maple syrup, and I had it on my pancakes for breakfast the other day, and it was delicious. Right? You can have it anytime.
wait, do you put ketchup on your eggs?
No, no, I
Good,
don't even
good.
have ketchup in my fridge.
I'm glad because I know some Canadians that do that, and I think that's just savagery. I don't trust anybody that puts ketchup on their eggs. But like even with starting a business nowadays, like even if you're gonna randomly decide to start up a hot sauce company or start up a coffee company in general, back in the day, if you would have did that, you know how long it would have took your growth to happen. It's so much easier now because you have so many outlets towards, such as like if you're using barbecue sauce, if you're using something, you're trying to start up a company that way, you could easily just market it to find some social media influencers that do that. That's a thing now. People that are trying to
That's
get their
right.
sauce out there. I guarantee you, if you send it to a giant chili head that's got something like 10,000 followers or something, you're immediately going to get recognition from a lot of people when they're using your sauce and they give a review on your sauce.
That's right. I mean, we are very fortunate to have some great reviewers that have been very very kind to us with their reviews and saying that they love our sauces. But I mean, like, not everybody likes them. We meet people at shows and they just don't like it. But that's what's important, and that's also okay with us. It's about finding what's right for you. Like, I mean, I'm if somebody says that they don't like super hot stuff, well, I'm not gonna force our super hot on them. I'll let them try something milder so that way they can see, like, you can be a part of this too. It's about being inclusive and not making people feel like they can't be a part of the hot sauce community, because we want it to be for everybody, and it should be.
Yeah, the hot sauce community is probably one of the best ones I've truly stumbled on. It actually sparks a little bit of a what I would say a fear aspect in my mind because I know where every community starts out amazing and wonderful, and then you just get a couple people that end up spoiling the batch. Like if you talk to anybody in the chili community, which I'm pretty sure you've already noticed, that they're just very, very complimentive towards anybody's creation. And I'm like, at one point that was with everything. I mean, with coffee, with all these kind of small things that ended up turning major and huge. There's just been a couple people that ended up ruining the batch. Like if you look at the hashtag podcasting, there's literally podcasts out there that talk shit on other podcasts. Like that's the whole basis
Yeah.
of it, is to shit on someone else's show. I'm like, I don't want that to be a hot sauce company. I mean, I get it if you have a confrontation with someone that owns a company, but there's just so much more of a benefit. Every time I look at someone's pages or someone's doing a hot challenge, everyone's like, awesome, man. Like, great, good job. Like, that's what we need. I think we need more support, first of all, in the world. And like, the easiest ones you can get that from is like the common hashtags of these small things that are starting to become huge, like a hot sauce community or a wood carving community, or, something that truly takes a creative mind to produce.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating to see, especially in Canada, the growth of that. Like, we've just started to have our Canadian hot sauce expos last year, whereas in the States they've been happening for probably decades. Huge weekend long events with tens of thousands of people attending, all for the love of hot sauce. It's quite incredible.
I don't
And
know if Amazon has been targeting me because I've been recently looking up a lot of things about hot sauce on the internet. First of all, talking with so many people for the podcast, but they sent me recommendations of things based on like browsing history. It was like hot sauce holders, which is like a little like gun holster, but it was for your hot
oh
sauce. I
yeah,
was like,
we've seen those before. Yeah.
this is a fucking thing, and it was so
Yeah.
surprising too. I was like, I wonder if someone can make a spiced cereal.
Of course, you could do spiced anything. There's spiced peanuts, there's super spicy chips. Even if you look at like the trends with like larger chains like McDonald's, it's like they have burgers that are like different levels of heat. And it's when you start to see it in those larger venues, it a makes us worried for one of the big companies to like take over, that aspect, but it just drives us harder to show people that, like, oh, this is another way of having it and this is a great way, and here are some people who are doing it really well and you should try them out.
Yeah, I definitely think that the chili community should stay pure. I know there's someone from the ice community that's going to come in and try and mess it up, but we just got to cut them out.
We just got to cut them out and send them back on their berg out into the continental drift, right?
Go back to the penguins and the polar bears and let us stick to our devils and dragons.
That's right.
Well, Steve, I really appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, man. I kind of want to give you here a minute at the end to be able to promote your content so people can find your farm. They can see you, messing with the bees or whatever you do on there besides creating this awesome sauce. That I'm going to have to get at one point because I'm going to have to review this thing.
Absolutely. Well, if anybody's looking for some Hertberry products, they can go to www.hertberryfarm.com and see what we have there. We have lots of great stuff. As well, you can check us out on Instagram at Hertberry Farm Inc. and Hertberry Farm East. Just to see what we have going on. You get to see our grow, which is really starting out. You can get to see different sauces that we release, where we're going to be involved in the community this upcoming season. And it's just lots of exciting stuff to come. So you should check us out.
Where did the name Hertz Berry come from?
Hertberry is a play on the chili pepper. It's actually a berry, and sometimes they hurt you. So it's something that Drew and I kind of coined the phrase, and we stuck with it. And we have the farm in there because we actually have a farm and we actually grow chilies there.
That is not what I thought it was. I thought of more of it like a Hertz donut, where you say like Hertz
Oh
donut,
yeah, Hertz
and
donut. Yeah,
you punch them. I was like Hertz Berry. I was like, is that like you want a Hertz Berry? Like, what's a Hertz Berry? And someone just gets socked right in the nuts.
yeah. That's not our shtick. Yeah, it's just a play on the chili pepper itself. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, Steve. And thanks so much, everybody, for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast.